Tell me in your words what happened.
Larry was home. He was watching Tiger Woods and then was going to take a nap and watch the Super Bowl later on that evening. I checked on him to see if he needed anything. He said that we would order a pizza later, and I went back out to the gym. The last thing that my husband said to me was, "I love you." I had the music blaring and was working out. I walked into my house at approximately 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And I found my husband in a pool of blood. I've never seen so much blood in my life. And I could see from where I was standing that my house had been ransacked. I didn't know if Larry had fallen down the stairs, if Larry had been shot, if Larry had been stabbed. I had no idea what had happened. But I frantically tried to take his pulse and then ran outside to call 911. I thought my husband was still alive because his eyes were open. And I told him to hold on. My world has not been the same since. And nothing has made much sense for me since that time.
But the police seem pretty certain that you were the killer, that you cold-bloodedly took a gun and pumped 5 bullets into your husband until he was dead. That's what they believe.
Yeah. All right, Chase, what do you got?
We definitely see a lot here. One thing we're going to start seeing a lot of that you're seeing in this video is her nodding for the other person to nod. She's wanting Pierce to start nodding. She's asking for approval, and he's not doing it. And you'll notice that in these other videos. But she's only nodding during the times when she's offering up a piece of evidence that makes her innocent. And I thought that was pretty interesting. And she also has an upward tone when she's saying something and asking you to agree with it at the times when she's presenting that evidence. And more than 50% of the time, she'll also include an eyebrow flash with that nod to make sure that you do the same, that you follow along with that behavior. There was, when Pierce is offering up this accusation that police are saying that you shot this person in cold blood, walking through that, we see emotional accessing down here with the eyes, followed by a distance. There's a stare, there's a slight head shake, and it's followed by a tiny swallow right at the end of this clip. In my line of work, in 20 years of doing this stuff, I see a lot of this, and this is called dissociation. So I think we're going to start seeing a pattern here of a person, the behaviors of a person who has experienced a lot of dissociation, and especially with things that she's been through in her past, the things she's done in her past. Dissociation may be par for the course for her childhood and probably much of her adult life. And there's two types of dissociation. I'll just cover really quick. There's depersonalization and there's derealization. Depersonalization means that this isn't me doing this. These hands were not mine that did this. And there's derealization, which means the world isn't real. This situation is fake. I don't feel like I'm in a real situation. The derealization tends to lead to antisocial behavior, which this woman is social. She's able to do the facial expressions. She makes good conversation. I say that, with all the slack I can give it. The depersonalization part of it, to where the person is detached from self, is more likely to lead into higher social development. So they're the ones that are likely to be what we're seeing here. So I think she is a depersonalization person. And what I mean by dissociation is that, especially in kids in their childhood, when they're undergoing, if they undergo some kind of severe trauma or even light trauma in many cases, they detach from the present moment. And Grown-ups who have been doing this for a long time, this muscle tends to strengthen over time. And they find that it's easier to do things way outside of their normal comfort zone because they can dissociate from the action. And I think there may be some stuff we're about to see that's going to bring this up again. And I apologize for the long explanation. I'll pass it to you, Greg.
Yeah, so a couple of things. Her down left eye movement, I'm going to give you what this is in you. Her down left eye movement is her navigating the minefield. She's walking through an internal conversation about what she's thinking. Try this at home. You try to calculate 15% of 980 without rounding, and you're going to find first you'll try to look up to your left a little. That won't work, and you'll drop down into your lower left as you're rifling through trying to figure out an actual internal conversation with self. You see her doing that a lot in this video. When I ask a question, I don't expect a person to do that because they're figuring out how to answer is what it is. She also is starting to tell a narrative. There's structure to her story. She's starting off, and Mark, I'm going to not steal much here because I know you're going to have a lot around storytelling. And she's starting to build story structure she can later use. If I were interrogating her, he missed one opportunity here that I would say. She said words that leave a glaring hole in her story for me. And she says, he was watching Tiger Woods and then was going to take a nap. There's a weird tense change for you. So, okay, maybe that's the way she's remembering it. I would have said, exactly what was he watching Tiger Woods? Because I can verify that on TV. I can tell what was going on at that point. But and then he was going to take a nap. I would venture to say somewhere in there, there's a problem. It's the only time I hear her use that word pattern in her entire story. And Joe Navarre and Jack Schaefer call that verbal bridging. I call it time hiding, whatever you want to call it. I'd say they coined the phrase verbal bridging. There's that. She does that lilt at almost every opportunity that she tells you something. That lilting, my house was ransacked. The other thing is when people make their living using their face, when people smile a lot, it leaves residuals. When people have a train wreck of stuff on their face, it's because they do a lot of train wreck stuff with their face. I can just about guarantee you there's some intensity in this person we're not seeing in this interview. And all the etching or residuals that you're seeing are all those years of her scrunching up her head and doing whatever she does. I would venture to say an argument with her is a very hot argument just by looking at her face. Look at mine. You can tell I've been kind of a jerk to people in my life. So if I've got this and she's got that, that's a pretty bad indicator. And then finally, if you listen to her, you'll find she does a great grief. She engages the chin in her forehead, but we don't know why. Guys, there's no indicator of deception. There's no single indicator. It just makes us know what to ask next. But she tongue juts in the middle of that. And this is not a grooming move. This is a full-on tongue jut. I mean, it sticks out. And then last one I'll leave you with, and you watch from here on, 21 first-person pronouns. She's talking about her husband. He gets about 11. That's what I got. Scott, what do you got?
All right, let's talk about some of the things she said and the way she looked when she said them. When she's talking about the last words her husband told her, the last thing my husband said was, "I love you." She doesn't show any emotion in that. When I tell you guys, when I put my dog Albert, when we had to go put him to sleep, I know what time it was. I know exactly what my face was doing. And even though a little time has passed since then, when I'm not in this situation, I'm explaining to someone, my face isn't going to look like it does now. It's going to be a little bit more emotional than this. Her face, she's talking about her husband, the guy that she was supposed to be the soulmate with. She shows no emotion at all in the direction of sadness or grief. She said the last thing he said was "I love me." He loves me. Also in this, the women watching this, they're going to say, "Why does this hit me wrong? Why is this odd?" And they're going to feel it in their gut because what their brain has seen is this. They've seen an edit in that. The last thing he said was that he loved me and she keeps talking wasn't part of that original question, because if you'll listen to that, you'll hear him talking in the background. They've cut his mic, so you don't hear him talking. They've cut to her, and you can hear his voice, the room sound of his voice bouncing off back there, and he's asking her something else. So if there's a woman watching this, you go, "Why does that feel so weird?" That you didn't know what to look for, listen for. That's why it feels weird to you.
I love those ears, Scott. I didn't hear that.
Okay.
That's wonderful.
Well, then she talks about this. She says, "I came in approximately 4:30, 5 o'clock. That's great because that gives her that 30-minute window to shoot this guy and clean everything up and do everything she needs to do to get ready to present this to the the dispatcher, to the 911 operator. So you've got that amount of time, and she makes sure to say it was, I don't know what time it was. In other words, it was approximately 4:30, 5 o'clock, and I was in the gym. You know, she says that she was in the gym, and when she came back in, she said I had the music blasting, and I was working out, and that fits the alibi that goes with why she didn't hear the gunshots as well. Now, in the full 911 call, we're not going to listen to the whole thing. She mentioned she was in the gym 8 times. 8 times she says, I was in the gym and I had just come back from the gym. I'd been in the gym. I just came in from the 8 times. That's saying if you're not talking about the person needing help and that first things out of your mouth, something's up. We'll get to that when we get to the call. But that 30-minute window gives her enough time to get rid of to wipe things clean, to clean things up, clean herself up, and then get psyched up and make that phone call. So that's what I got. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, lovely. So lots of good things set up here. Absolutely concur with everything I've heard there. Listen out for those inflections, lots of upward inflections in this one, which often sound kind of like requests for approval, or that it might be a question, more of a statement later on. We will hear some downward inflections, and they'll be around things that we actually know to be factual. So let's point those out as we go along. Good point, Greg. You know, why was Tiger Woods on the television? Well, that was the Phoenix Open in Arizona, apparently. And that's why Tiger Woods is on the TV. So does she mention Tiger Woods? Because she puts a big stress on Tiger Woods. Does she mention that because she's kind of a big golf fan and it really sticks in her mind? Or is it that Tiger Woods is not only an icon of golf, but an icon of infidelity? He is representative of both those things. And in fact, for many people, more of an icon of infidelity. And so now I've never come across this story before, but the moment I heard that stress on Tiger Woods was the moment where I thought, we're going to hear about somebody being some infidelity a bit later on. I would gamble. So watch out for that. The last thing my husband said to me was, I love you, upward inflection. I think this is a resume statement. This is, he told me he loves me, so, you know, we're in love, so why would I kill him? So it's already set up there. I kind of killed him because the last thing he said was, I love you, and therefore, you know, we must love each other back. Absolutely request for approval all the way through. Now responds with concern and confusion at the end, and absolutely we've got grief muscles here and here, and it's really good. Like it's really good. I think when Piers Morgan says this is a really good liar, yeah, this is really good stuff. She does it really, really well. And if it weren't for all these other things around it and what we're going to hear about, that signal alone would probably get most people, and they would feel immediate empathy around that grief. So as a first out of the gate here, good performance, but with quite a few interesting tells in there about what we're going to see later on. That's what I got for you.
Excellent.
Tell me in your words what happened.
Larry was home. He was watching Tiger Woods and then was going to take a nap and watch the Super Bowl later on that evening. I checked on him to see if he needed anything. He said that we would order a pizza later, and I went back out to the gym. The last thing that my husband said to me was, I love you. I had the music blaring and was working out. I walked into my house at approximately 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And I found my husband in a pool of blood. I've never seen so much blood in my life. And I could see from where I was standing that my house had been ransacked. I didn't know if Larry had fallen down the stairs, if Larry had been shot, if Larry had been stabbed. I had no idea what had happened. But I frantically tried to take his pulse, and then ran outside to call 911. I thought my husband was still alive because his eyes were open, and I told him to hold on. My world has not been the same since, and nothing has made much sense for me since that time.
But the police seem pretty certain that you were the killer, that you cold-bloodedly took a gun and pumped 5 bullets into your husband until he was dead. That's what they believe.
If you like this video, get the full body language breakdown and analysis on our main channel by clicking this video right here.